Good morning. Welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Susan Clark. I'm going to start out with a very simple song that you can actually sing along with me. So the words are, we are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. That's it. It's going to change melodically a little bit, but a song by Donna Michael. Here we go. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. Same words, different melody. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. Do the whole thing again. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. We are one mind, we are one heart, one in love and light. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. We teach the science of mind so that we can all live better lives and contribute to a world that works for everyone. I am practitioner Marilyn O'Leary, and we would not be able to bring this wonderful Sunday service to you without the loving help and service of many dedicated people who are our tech team, our greeters, ushers, and welcomers, as well as our bookstore team. In addition, we have practitioners on high watch and offering the invocation and benediction, as well as snack angels and our announcement angels. We have angels everywhere. Just look around. Our talk today will be delivered by Rev Tammi Lambert and is entitled You and I Are We. Please join me now in reading our vision and mission statements. Our vision: transforming our world with the power of love in action. And our mission: loving all creation through spiritual growth and service, always staying true to our highest self. Now, let us prepare ourselves for the invocation by practitioner Talia Hiron.
Thank you. I welcome you, first of all, to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living, wherever it is that you are in the world, or wherever it is that you are in your own world. For we all inhabit our worlds and experience life through this world. So this inner world of yours to experience, I offer today the thought of making this day the most amazing day for yourself that there ever has ever been, ever. For it is your day to create as you like, as you can, with the help, the guidance, inspiration of Spirit and all of Spirit helpers, of which there are incredibly infinite numbers, all about you, seen and unseen. Call them in. For we are one. And that spirit lives in you and as you and thrives. So have this day be your day to thrive and shine as you choose. Remember, you are the strength and the power of the divine within you. So welcome with all of your mighty powers and light and life and gifts and presence to this service, which will unfold itself for you in the blessings and in the light of the divine oneness. May you thrive and shine in the light of the oneness this morning, this day, and all days. Thank you. Please say with me, if you like, and so it is. Thank
you. Thank you, Talia. You know, it is wonderful that we can attend this service in person or virtually. And I know we have a number of people who are, well, of course, I know there are people here, and it's wonderful to see you all and see your wonderful faces. It's also heartening to know that there are many people who come to us and visit us online and who attend our service online. And so we are grateful for that. We're also grateful for the people who hold the high watch, for the practitioners who are home holding the high watch for us, because we know that it has stood us all in good stead during these last 2 years. So we thank you all for that. All right, I have a special reading that I found that is from the book, The Essential Ernest Holmes. And this is a wonderful book if you are looking for another good book with Ernest Holmes writing in it. This is from a title of the chapter title. It's called The World Has Suffered Enough. And Holmes writes, I am certain that the great spiritual leaders of the ages, having given their lives to meditation, prayer, and communion with the Spirit, have left a great spiritual legacy to the world. Taken as a whole, they have come nearer to discovering God than any other group of people. Claiming very little originality of thought and not particularly desiring any, I have always been in a position to learn from all sources. Truth cannot belong to any individual, and there can be no religion higher than the truth. The three great enemies of mankind are war, disease, and poverty. And we believe that these three great enemies must finally be overcome, as divine wisdom and infinite intelligence find a more complete outlet through the mind of man. We are conscious that peace is the power at the heart of God, that at the very center of the universe there are equilibrium, poise, peace, love, truth, and beauty. And we feel that we would draw closer into this beauty, into this divine presence, into the realization of this eternal peace, which must finally triumph over all war, which must finally heal all disease, and which must finally destroy every sense of lack, of limitation, and of want. We know that it is not a natural order of things for people to be at war with one another. We know that the human heart is instinctively kind, that it desires peace, it desires self-expression, it desires liberty, and it desires happiness. If we would promote the idea of peace in the world, we must begin with our own individual consciousness. The whole nation and the whole community of nations, making up as it does a community of humanity, all are aggregate of individuals like we are. All nations are made up of groups of individual centers of thought, of will, which we call personality. For personality is really will, intelligence, and volition fused into one, making possible an individual mind and a personal expression. And now we have some special music. Our special guest musician is Susan Clark, who many of us recognize because she was in charge of our music on Sundays before moving to Denver. She's back, and we're glad to have her as our guest musician today. Please welcome Susan.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes, I always feel like I'm back home with family when I come to visit you guys. I'm going to do a song written by Robert Anderson and Lori Anderson, and this is called We Are One in the Spirit. Away, 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 away. We are one in the spirit. We are one in this world. We are one in the spirit. Everybody, every soul, everywhere we turn, life is gonna change when inside we change and take that journey to the heart. You are my brother and you are my sister, and not one of us can live apart. We are one in the spirit. We are one in this world. We are one in the spirit. Everybody, every soul, everywhere we turn, involve yourself in. It's time to begin for the healing of the earth. Many small steps here, millions of feet now, can carry everybody to rebirth. We are one in the spirit. We are one in this world. We are one in the spirit. Everybody, every soul, everywhere we turn, away, 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 away. I have no idea what that means, but it feels good just to sing it, right? And I know you're wanting to sing it with me. And if you sing it loud enough, I'll do a little scat on top. So here we go. I'm going to get you started. Ready? Away, 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 away. A little louder. Away, away. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Away, away. So as you take yourself, give back to someone else. All the nations here belong. Tear down illusion, shore up with truth. You and I, we will sing a worldwide song. We are one in the spirit. We are one in this world. We are one in the spirit. Every woman, every man, every boy and girl. We are one in the spirit. We are one in this world. We are one in the spirit. Everybody, every soul, everywhere we turn. Away, 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 away. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Our speaker today is Rev Tammi Lambert, and you all know Tammi. Tammi has a master's degree in consciousness studies from the Holmes Institute with a certificate in ministry. Her commitment is to create a world that is powerfully conscious and transforming itself in every area of life, which includes government, courts, the private sector, and any area where there is a potential for making a positive difference. The monthly theme of our talks is relationships, and the title for today's teaching is You and I Are We, and this is what Reverend Tammi says about this topic. Let's explore the relationships we have with those closest to us and those farthest from us, and how all are shaped by how each of us understands and relates to the collective we. There can be no wonder or peace if we hold contempt and distrust for the collective we. Please welcome Reverend Tammi Lambert. Tammi, you are muted. Okay.
That's much better. Thank you. All right. All right. So go ahead and start talking. Give me the thumbs up. All right. Sorry about that. I was on mute. So happy Sunday, everyone. Again, it's good to see you all and good to be here. I want to start with sharing the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. And so I'm just going to say that and just kind of let's just let those words simmer with us. So I'm just going to read that right now. And the prayer is, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. That's one of my favorite passages because it reminds us that we are part of a collective connection, that there is a connection in our relationship to ourselves. And when we have this relationship to ourselves and knowing that we are here to be these instruments of light, that we are here to be instruments of power, of love, to console, to bring love, it has us define who we are in relationship to the collective we. because we know that when we have this underpinning awareness that we are part of the universal one, what brings up for us is an experience of compassion and empathy. It brings up within us the highest level of spirituality. When we start talking about consciousness, and we often talk about race consciousness or collective consciousness, it occurred to me that maybe we should define what we mean by consciousness, because what some people mean by consciousness is not always, it has multiple meanings. So of course there's the consciousness where we are conscious, meaning, we haven't been knocked unconscious, right? So we're not in a state of unconsciousness. We are aware and awake. So when we talk about consciousness, that is a part of it, but that's not actually what we're talking about as far as collective consciousness. There is an idea of collective consciousness that within each of us, there is a subjective consciousness. There's a part of me that is also a part of the subjective consciousness of the universe. So when we are praying and when we have our symbol, we see that we are putting our seeds into in the science of mind symbol, we're putting our seeds of what we are creating with our thoughts and our deeds into this subjective unconsciousness of not just ourselves, but of everything else in the universe. And we know that what we plant in the realm of the subconscious into the realm of manifestation always yields. So there's a collective yes. There's a yes in the universe. There is a yes of creation. There is a yes that whatever I am sowing, I am reaping. And for good or for ill, whatever I am planting does come up. But inside of this collective subconsciousness, there is also this idea of race consciousness or collective consciousness that is the collective, if there were a place where, a metaphysical place where all of our thoughts and all of our, thought forms kind of live. Often we call that a race consciousness. So in Science of Mind, we talk about race consciousness as being this idea that there are thought forms out there, and we can just roll down the river of those thought forms, or we can actively create and to create something that's outside of the norm, outside of the way that everything is going. So, we have a lot of things going on in the collective consciousness right now when we think about what's going on with, COVID, or like what happens during summer, or, what's going on with the economy of the world, or things like that. So we have this race consciousness that is this collective thought. But I think that what I want to focus on today is this idea that we are looking at the consciousness of something higher, that there is a divine consciousness that is beyond and behind everything that exists. And that is our experience and our expression of God. So we're looking at mind as capital M mind, not mind like the thoughts of ourselves and everyone else around us. And it's interesting because as we study this idea of consciousness, we're not just thinking about consciousness as just thought or circumstances. We're thinking about consciousness as a spiritual idea that is something that comes from the realm of spirit, that is a higher and deeper expression, rather than just something that we have used our minds to create. So often when we are thinking about the creation of minds, the creation of thought, and then we look at our mind in relationship to that, sometimes we listen to some of the common ideas that are out in the universe with regard to the creation of consciousness or mind. The first time I thought about that was, I remember in 1983, there was a movie called War Games. And in that movie, there was a young character, I think it was played by Matthew Broderick. And in that movie, he was a computer hacker, and he was trying to change his grades through the school computer system. And he somehow entered into a military establishment on the computer. and he thought he was playing war games and inadvertently almost caused World War III because he thought he was playing a war game and not actually realizing that it was connected to the military and the nuclear systems that were aimed at Russia. So in that particular story, he went to the creator of the game, and they realized that what was happening was that the computer had gotten the program had created its own consciousness, and that so what they introduced to it was the idea of tic-tac-toe, and it realized from learning tic-tac-toe that any war game playing with nuclear armaments would result in the annihilation of the planet. Once the computer realized that these war games would only lead to annihilation, it said strange game, and it said maybe we should just play a game of chess. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up that, movie, which is almost 40 years old, is because there's been this idea that the human brain, in evolution, that we evolved so much that, like a computer, we became the host to consciousness, and that rather that we created consciousness with the sophistication of our brains, right? That the sophistication of our brains, we evolved to such a level that we created consciousness. But we actually know that the opposite is true, that there is an idea of consciousness that already exists that creates us. And so, since we are operating and living in this space where we are in an expression of consciousness, we realize that everything and everyone around us are expressions of something that already exists. It's not something that we are necessarily subject to. So that's why so often you'll hear me talking about how fascinating I think it is that the brain is, how fascinating the brain is, because we realize that our brains and our bodies and our interactions, that all of these, our emotional body, that these are things that we as a consciousness first create, that we are not actually created by it, but that we are the source, that we are different expressions of the source of consciousness first. And by being the source of consciousness, we are actually using these things in the material realm as our computer game. So instead of having the game play us, we are playing the game. So we are playing the game in our lives for relationships. And so whenever we're thinking about playing the game in our lives of relationships, we're always looking at what about the collective consciousness is impacting how I play those games. And it always kind of boils down to me having a self-awareness of my own consciousness, and what is the things that are consciousness that I am creating, and what are the things about me that are on automatic pilot. So when I think about automatic pilot, I always think about myself. Sometimes I'll be driving to work, and it may be Saturday and I don't work on Saturday, right? So I'm heading down the road and I'll say, oh my goodness, I wasn't being mindful, and I ended up just kind of almost accidentally driving to work because I'm not being mindful or conscious, right? So we all have that kind of programming, not just about driving to work, but in our relationships, we often have programming that may be biological. We may have programming that is going on in the physicality of our bodies. We may have programming that we may have brought from other lifetimes. We may have programming that we made up stories about how to survive, or what is the best way to survive a situation. What is the best way to have our ego and deal with a world that seems separate. We have all these programs that we've made up, and if we're not being mindful, we will follow along with the program. But one of my favorite sayings is that, science of mind is an opportunity to interrupt our regularly scheduled programming. And instead of being like the computer in war games and finding ourselves having external programming that would lead to the annihilation of what we care about, we actually can start using this idea of consciousness within us to create a space of awareness, of mindfulness, of being able to say, I choose how I do my relationships. So inside of this, we have the ability to look at, when we're looking at relationships, what is the collective consciousness about relationships that we're called to? So when I know who I am, when I know what my consciousness stems from, I can see that in every situation, I'm called to be what is showing up in this Saint prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. That where there is love, where there's a lack of love, I am bringing love. Where there appears to be darkness, that I am bringing light. That when there's sorrow and pain, that I am a loving, compassionate, empathetic force. So I know that instead of being designed by the world and then bringing my mind into that, I actually start with my consciousness first, and then I'm able to create everything around me. One of the quotes that I was looking at with regard to this issue was a quote um, by Ernest Holmes, where he's talking about what is our spirituality and what is our consciousness. And he says that spirituality is natural goodness, that God is not a person, that God is a presence personified in us. So spirituality is not a thing, it is the atmosphere of God's presence, goodness, truth, and beauty. So when I'm taking on that who I am is a spiritual being, I am taking on the parts of myself that is the presence of divine consciousness, that is showing itself as presence, goodness, truth, and beauty. So when I look at myself as a collective consciousness, I bring to myself the awareness of that. And when I'm able to know myself, I'm able to know my community. So one of the things that, for example, the community at Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living has done is create a space of collective consciousness to attract its new minister. It attracted a minister that inside of its collective consciousness and creating a collective intent on what it was going to draw to itself as a community. So we can join ourselves one to another in our collective consciousness. I'm reminded of the spiritual verse that says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, this being attributed to the Christ, where 2 or 3 are gathered in the space of goodness, truth, and beauty, there I am in the midst of them. So when the community creates beauty for itself, when the community creates prosperity for itself, when the community creates as a collective consciousness this amplification of light, what we are doing is we are all joined together in this space of light, and we are all able to create something more remarkable than if we were just focusing on just ourselves. Because when we realize that we are all connected, when we realize that we are one, what I'm creating for myself and what I'm creating for everyone else, I realize that there's no difference. And one of my favorite examples is the idea of looking at the multiple lights in the room right now and seeing that there are so many light sources, but there isn't a clear delineation between the light from one source and the light from the other source. That while 2 lights make it brighter in the room, the whole environment, the whole atmosphere is lit up with this amplified light. And so we are called in this moment to experience this joy of our amplified light. We are called in this moment to give up the separateness, which is our own little hiding our own bush under a shadow, and being in the space of understanding the power of the power of what we bring to each other. And we also know that when we are relating to ourselves as a conscious group, that what we are able to do together is so profound. Because in order to be in relationship with you, I am giving up this idea of separation. I'm giving up the idea of that there's something about me that would be separate from you. And so I have to know myself as light, as love, as empathy, as compassion, as power, in order to be able to see that in you. So there is no such thing as being able to be in a powerful relationship of light with the we unless I know the I. And we talked about the I and bringing in the light last week. Well, in this moment, what's so important is that as we look at what's going on in the world, we see ourselves in kind of like, even though the War Games movie was almost 40 years ago, we see ourselves in very similar situations. And we see ourselves feeling this amygdala fear of what is going to happen on the planet. What is going to happen? I was talking with someone yesterday and they were saying, I was looking at the news and I don't know if we're going to blow ourselves up. And I don't know, what's going to happen. And, people are dealing with so much going on in the world right now in so many levels, on a personal and a collective way. So, what do we do with that? And it is not accurate to say that because we are focusing on the light, that we don't acknowledge that there is darkness showing itself up. We just focus on knowing that the light is more powerful, and we focus on bringing our attention and the light and flowing through us. We focus on being an instrument of peace. Part of being an instrument of peace is not approaching peace in the way that we have done in the past. And you've heard me say this so many times that I remember my father saying that we can't deal with situations today with the tools of yesterday. So how do we become a space of that? And we are reminded that we are in a space of commitment, not attachment to results, that we're not fighting against the world. We're fighting to eliminate anything in us that would bar our being a full and beaming beacon of light, that would be an impediment to anything between us and our fellow conscious being. And we give up the idea that there's anything that would separate us. I have a friend who is I would say would be, if there were a spectrum of political, a political spectrum, that they would have been on the complete opposite side of that from me. And I've been noticing that I've been attracting people who are expressing different views. And I've been taking on listening to them from a space of love, and listening and silencing my judgment, and just being a space of love as they speak into this, listening to this aura of love, like being no matter what love. And I had someone who talked for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, like monologuing about what was going on. And I just trained my mind to listen from love. And what they said was that it was absolutely astounding that I listened to them. And I actually listened to them kind of reevaluate what they were saying in the light of that love presence. And so in that situation, it wasn't a matter of me arguing with them. It was a matter of me listening from a space of love. But just because we listen from a space of love, and just because we're standing for love, doesn't mean that the collective consciousness that may be going down a shadowy path, it doesn't mean that we don't do anything. I think that it just continues to mean that we embody light, that we embody the best parts of ourselves, and that we continue to stand in our commitment. And we listen to the world through this lens of spirituality. We listen to the world through, are we engaged in the business of creating an atmosphere of God's presence, goodness, truth, and beauty? And so in this moment, we are able to put ourselves aside, the ego shadow selves. We're able to acknowledge the ego shadow selves in others. And in the space of where we see the ego shadow selves in others, we take on a commitment to being the light. And so we realize that we have the ability to have a universal impact with our consciousness of love, that with our connection, with our power, that we are able to create powerfully. And so in this moment right now, I just want us to go into our meditation. We're going to do a meditation on our collective light. And so we're just going to create an intention for the community, create an intention for everyone who is here, watching from home or from their personal devices, who is sitting in the room. At any point and any time, let's just bring that intention. So if you are a practitioner and you're in the room at the center, please stand and we'll have this moment. And then if you are online, just raising your hand as well in this experience of consciousness. So I just go into this awareness of divine presence, this awareness of divine love. And I know that this consciousness, this power, this divine source is light. And I just call in it in this moment as light and love. And I bring in that power. I bring in the source. I allow it to come in from my head to just flood my entire being and to flow out my feet. And I just allow this constant stream of light to pulse through me in every area of my being. And I just know that it's good. And so as I'm sitting in this light, I hold up my hands and I see myself holding the hands of the person next to me. The person next to me is my neighbor, my friend, my community member. And I just connect myself and my light with them. All of us that are light workers, that we are collectively connected, that we are holding our hands. So we just have our light in our heart open. And I bring my attention to the center of my chest and I just open my heart. And I allow that heart stream to flow out through my hands. And I allow myself to hold the collective heart hands of all the light workers right now. And in this moment, we create a powerful connection, knowing that where 2 or 3 are gathered, this Christ consciousness of love and of power is present. And in this space, I call on the healing of our community. I call on the healing of our personal relationships. I call on the healing of our physical bodies. I call on the healing, calling in prosperity and love and power and connection and beautiful relationships. And I just know in this moment that I am part of a huge collective consciousness of light. And I intentionally draw in that light and allow it to flow in and through me. And I state this intention right now, that we transform our community and that we transmute that community through this heart power. We transform this entire collective consciousness and transmute it through the heart so that there is only love present. There is only beauty present. There is only power present. That this experience of oneness transmutes and uplifts to a higher level of consciousness in this moment right now. And here there is only goodness, truth, beauty, divine presence. And I call this circle of light into this moment, into this space right now. And I just breathe into the truth of this, allowing my heart to expand, to connect with light, to connect with the light in me, the light of presence, the light of divine consciousness, and the light of this divine consciousness of everyone. And I call on a divine truth that in this moment we lift each other up. In this moment, we lift the vibration of the planet. In this moment, we lift the vibration of all things, all beings, and call it all blessed, call it all perfect, and call it all good. And so we just allow our hands to fall to our laps. And we just know that we are the flow. And then we can cross our hands and our legs and just sit in that divine energy for ourselves and for myself right now, and say this for yourself. I call on the complete beautification and purification of my spirit to emanate through every aspect of my being, of my body. I am whole. I am perfect. I am complete. I am so loved. I am so blessed. And I am a blessing to the world. And so, knowing this is so, I offer so much gratitude for this goodness, for this perfection. And I sit in the peace knowing it is so. And so it is. Amen. Namaste.
That was so wonderful. All right, now it's time, and it's a perfect time to share our abundance. There are multiple ways to give that will be scrolling across the screen. And those are especially useful for those people at home. But also, if you're here and you didn't bring a check or whatever, you can give that way too. We also have baskets on the stage for people who are here. And we want you to know that your offerings are essential to our ministries, and we are sincerely grateful for everything that you can share. So please say the giving affirmation with me. I am abundant, and I give from my abundance. I am prosperous, and I give from my prosperity. I am blessed, and I give from my blessings. My blessings of spirit are as abundant as the stars, and so I give and receive generously, and so it is. And now we have another song from Susan Clark.
I'm just a spoke in the wheel, one grain of sand, but it feels so right to be right where I am. One little part of a much bigger plan, and the longer I'm here, the more I understand. I am one, we are one, like the rays of the sun. When it's all said and done, I am one, we are one. I'm just one drop of rain that falls from the sky, that runs to a stream in the ocean by and by. And I could do worse than to give myself up on the crest of a wave in this ocean of love. I am one, we are one, like the rays of the sun. When it's all said and done, I am one, we are one. One gentle touch, one loving word, one single step toward a kinder world. I am one, we are one, like the rays of the sun. When it's all said and done, I am one, we are one. I am one, we are one, like the rays of that beautiful brilliant sun. When it's all said and done, I am one, we are one.
please help me now bless these offerings. O divine giver of life, we gratefully accept these and all your gifts on behalf of our congregation and its ministry. We honor each gift and giver and declare that our abundance is increased 1,000-fold. If you're new today, we are so delighted to have you here. Carol Ann Armijo is at the back, or will be if she's not there right now. And she has a gift for you. There she is in a pretty flowered dress. And Carol has a flower for you and some information about our center. So please see her if this is your first time today. And and if you are new online, we hope that you will come by the center. We're here, we're open from I think 9 to 2, something like that. We're at 4374 Alexander Northeast, between Comanche, which is Griegos where we are, and Renaissance. And if you know where the Costco is in that area, we're right on the same street. So easy to find. We would love to meet you. Also, our licensed practitioners are ready to support you with a mini prayer treatment after service. Those of us in purple stoles are here, and we may be around, we may be up here, but you can find us. Or if you know we're a practitioner, you can grab us and ask us for a mini prayer. They are quite effective. Also, please use the prayer box, which is in the back on the table. Our prayer request forms are in the pocket, also of chairs in front of you. But if you write out your prayer request, put it in the prayer box, we will take those prayer requests, we the practitioners, and pray for them all week. You can also go to the website to request prayer. And in case you didn't know this, there's a new prayer by our very own practitioners on our website every day. Be sure to check those out. And now Dr. Norm Dawson will share some announcements to be followed by benediction and a closing song. And please join us in the social hall. Norm.
Thank you and good morning. Wow, Tammy, that's great. I just love your message. It gives me a whole new concept of the meaning of the word we. And I'm going to watch that movie again, War Games. Haven't seen that in 40 years. Thank you, Susan. Loved your music. It just takes me away. Okay. You probably heard that Mark Ayers had a heart attack a few days ago. Last I heard, he's Presbyterian. He's recovering. I listened to him talking on a men's group that I belong to the Thursday night. So he seemed to be recovering nicely, and he does look forward to anybody that wants to text him. The information is in the newsletter, and all the information I'm sharing with you today is in the newsletter. So text him and, oh, well, somebody said he got home yesterday. Who said that? Hey, great, he got home yesterday. Okay, see, these news flashes keep coming to me all the time, and I just don't know everything. Okay, so yes, he's home. That's good. Okay, let's see the update for Reverend Gill. Well, first of all, the relocation costs have been approved by the board. We need $5,000. So far, we've raised $1,200 for that, so we need another $2,800 to help him relocate. And I also, Barbara got a message from him the other day, and he is looking for anybody that can support finding either a place to house sit for several months while he gets reacclimated to the area, or a house to rent, or even a house to buy. Now he's working with a realtor, but any extra little pieces that can come together to help him get here would be very helpful. So if you have any of those little connections, reach out to him or Reverend Karen, and she can forward the information. Earlier this year, we took a stand with Ukraine. We still take a stand with Ukraine because they're still being bombed daily and civilians are being blown up and all this stuff. So we take a stand for peace and independence for Ukraine. So just take a moment during the week to give some thought to that. Also, I forgot to mention there is a pledge card at the back there for the summer pledge for helping to raise funds for the relocation. So that's in the back there in the table. It's a nice little form. Looks like that. So fill that out, put that in there. Also, we need an immediate need. There is an immediate need for a part-time administrative coordinator that's going to help Michael with the other activities in the office that are all encompassing with the new minister coming in here. So you need to know some software and administrative functions and how to run and organize the office and all that kind of stuff. So be sure to get a hold of Reverend Karen if you want this position, if you know of somebody that wants to apply for it. Every week, the Compassion Ministries has a little blurb in the newsletter. This one here is about healthy relationships. Basically, it's health, happiness, and relationships go hand in hand. There's some couple of good YouTube videos in there that the Compassion Ministry refers you to. Recurring meetings, they're same as usual in the newsletter to tell you the date, the time, the location, who, where, what, the Zoom link, and all that stuff is in the newsletter. So be sure you check that out. And be sure you meet us in the room here in the back for some goodies. And that's it for me, live from New Mexico, Sunday morning announcement.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Norm. And blessings to all that we have going on here at the center. And blessings to you all. And let us remember as we move forth from this service today, this gathering, this coming together in our hearts, our minds, and our consciousnesses, that it is our consciousness that empowers us. It is our own choices made through our mindful consciousness that lead us on our paths, that create the experiences and how we choose to respond and manifest those. And so let us know the power that we hold within us, that light of the divine that is ours. And again, I affirm this is your day. Take that powerful, empowered, loving light, collective in spirit and divinity, consciousness of yours out into the world and make this just an amazing day. Thank you and bless you with all of the love and all of the light that there is manifest and manifesting all of the time. So be it. Thank you.
It's time for our closing song. So if you feel like it, if you're able, please stand just to kind of give it a little more energy outward. I'm going to do a little snippet of an Eddie Watkins Jr. song for you. And you may or may not know this, so let's just review for a minute before I start. Here are the words. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And then we'll do that life is your life now. And then we'll do that life is our life now. Okay? Simple enough? There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is your life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is your life now. Now we're going to go to our life now. Ready? There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is our life now. There's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is our life now. That life is our life now. That life is our life now. Right now. Have a great day. Happy Sunday.